The next bit was going to be tricky. So tricky, in fact, that I failed. See, I had to explain to Jane that we were going to Quebec to meet with experts. You might imagine how very much she wouldn't hear it after how the past few days went. She was adamant that she was coming with us. She had a good point too. What if they had questions about the school or the people involved? I thought I'd been clever by leaving the conversation vague enough that we could leave without her and could still argue I hadn't technically agreed when we came back, while still leaving the door open to taking her with us if I changed my mind. Besides, at the end of the day, the pack leader was Gloria. She would make the final call, and I felt I was leaving her options. Before we could leave, we had to decide what to do with the key. We couldn't risk keeping it on the cairn without cleansing it, even less take it with us considering how we planned to travel. And we didn't know if cleansing it would remove important traces the Thurges from Quebec needed to see. In the end, we FedExed it to Quebec. We felt it was the safer mode of travel for it. See, we could travel by Moonbridge, which meant passing by the cairn's heart. Now let me be crystal clear. If we had brought a potentially worm-tainted object to the heart, Sarah would have had our heads, children of Gaia or not. Surprise, surprise, when we got to the cairn's heart, Jane was there, waiting for us. "Took you long enough," she said, getting up and stretching her legs. She'd clearly been waiting a while. "What are you doing?" replied Gloria. "I'm coming with you. I told Horace I would." I don't know why. I felt I should step in. "Jane, I told you," I started, but "Let her come," ordered Gloria, broking no argument. "Okay then," I said, backing off right the heck then and there. "But what about Jill?" "I told Mom I was sleeping at Edith," Jane said, settling that. We all felt it was a little weak. Her mom probably had never heard of Edith and may try to reach out, but was there a better option? Jane's closest friends died during her first change, and we sure weren't going to bring that up. The gatekeeper made her way to us. Her name was Whiptongue. Gaia rest her soul. A Geta Fenris Galliard, known for being both kind and for taking absolutely no shit from anyone. She was the last surviving packmate of our warder, Stormclaw. I liked her. Despite her packmate, she never gave Gloria any flack that I know of. I know they clashed in battle when they first met, but when the Fenrir was satisfied that Gloria could hold her own, that was that. As the gatekeeper, it was her job to open the way for us. She sat in front of Karen's heart to perform the rite of the opened cairn, during which she'd engage in spiritual argument with Karen's patron, Chimera. As I understand it, the ritual is different from Karen to Karen and patron to patron. The ritual is usually meant as a trial, where the ritualist is challenged by the patron to earn access to the Karen's raw energy. Channeling this energy, the Rite Master can bestow the Garou of the Sept great spiritual boons for a time. But if that energy is instead channeled through a powerful artifact known as a Pathstone, then a moonbridge can be opened from one Karen heart to another Karen heart, provided that A, they also have a Pathstone, B, their gatekeeper allows it, C, their patron allows it, and D, both gatekeepers maintain the moonbridge stable by performing the rite of the open cairn once a year. If all of those conditions are met, then traveling from one sept to another is a joke, reducing travel time 1,000 times. I'm not even kidding. A sept that would be an hour's walk away, that's something like 0.06 minutes by moonbridge. This lets us travel to Cairn all over the world in hours, minutes even. As we looked on, we saw that Whiptongue was presented by phantom images, the kind we saw sometimes on the sept while on the umbral side. She would take her cues from these images to improvise a story. Each image was a choice she could take or leave. every time she conducted the ritual, weaving the tale of a lesson Chimera wished to impart, but only if she reached the right conclusion and followed the right flow of images. Good thing Whiptongue was also the tale's singer. I'm pretty sure she was the only one of the sept with any hope of pulling it off reliably. When she was done, a tube, or corridor, if you will, of silver light formed, one end losing itself in the northern skies, and the other one landing at our feet. Jane's eyes grew several sizes. "What the breathtaking fuck is this?" she said. "A moon bridge," Firehound answered, matter-of-factly, as he stepped on and patted away like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Come, I'll explain on the way," I told her, ushering her on. She was all "whoa" as she made her first few steps. Now, I know all the vets here know this well. Even among the gathered cubs, all eager-eyed and ready for tomorrow's challenge, I know one or two of you came by Moonbridge. I see the glitter in your eyes, but for the rest of you who never had the experience, let me tell you that you're not ready. It's impossible to explain how weird it is to step on solid light. Not even solid, really. It's still just light. I'm pretty sure if you drop your keys, they'll fall right through, all the way down to whatever umbral realm might be waiting below. When you put your foot down, you can feel it give just a little before it holds your weight. And yet, somehow, it's fine. You're not out of balance, it doesn't slip, and you can just walk normally, every step taking you higher and higher towards the cloud canopy above. It sure takes some getting used to. "So, you can go anywhere like this? To any sept?" she said, when I was done with the same basics I just gave you. "Not quite. Pathstones are pretty rare. It's a lucky Garou who finds one hidden in the depths of the Umbra. Once you have one, you need to establish a bridge with one or more other cairns. Here's the thing, though. You get quick access to their sept. Not everyone is okay with that. There's a lot of politics involved. If someone does something stupid and there's a falling out with one of the cairns you're linked to, that's one burned bridge we might never be able to rebuild without a lot of effort. Remember, the sept needs to agree, and the patron. Depending on the patron, forgive and forget just might not be an option. Not without some epic shimonage anyway. But it's worth it. You also need to announce yourself, because their gatekeeper must open the gate on their end too, so it's not something you can just do on a whim. If their gatekeeper is off somewhere, you're out of luck. I guess that means you usually maintain bridges with just a couple of septs and hope it gets where you need to go?" she tried. And she was right on the money. "Pretty much," I said. "You pick the sept you have a compatible moon bridge that's closest to where you need to be, and you find a means of travel to get you the rest of the way. Sometimes you might need to take a couple moon bridges through a couple of septs first, assuming everyone is okay letting you pass. Now and again that can mean ending up owing someone a debt." "How so?" she asked. "Well, say you're from this sept, Shadows by Firelight, and you go to the sept of the Concrete Bonds. That's fine. They know you," I began. "But then you want to go to the sept of the Anvil Claven in Europe. The folks at Anvil Claven don't know you. Letting you through might come with a price tag." Right, makes sense. Hold on, where's the town?" "Far away. Remember, it may seem like we've been casually walking for 2 minutes, but that means we've traveled the equivalent of 2,000 minutes. We're almost there. Look." She'd been busy looking down at the penumbra, looking wondrously at every detail. I pointed towards a massive cloud ceiling just a few steps away. "We're going there?" she asked, both worried and filled with wonder. "You'll see." We dove into the clouds. For a while the world outside our illuminated walls went dark. All we could see was an all-encompassing grey mass, shifting and settling to and fro at the whims of umbral winds. Suddenly the world opened up again. All around us was the clearest of skies, a deep blue as dark as the ocean, with wondrous stars absolutely everywhere, sparkling like bright lit diamonds dancing a waltz. All around us, the ground was a desert of white clouds, roiling about to and fro, as solid as if it were sand. Spongier, maybe, but solid nonetheless. The entire thing lit up by the brightest moon you'll ever see, by a factor of at least 10. Its light permeating all around us, welcoming. To the opposite, the smallest sun you've ever seen, still bright and distinct, just far, far away. And between them, all the homes of the other celestial incarnates shared the sky. All 9 planets of our solar system, clear as day, right there, closer and in more detail than any human had ever seen them. Welcome to the ethereal realm, I said, turning to Jane. One of the 13 near realms of the Umbra, quite possibly the most amazing. There was a glint in her eye at the sheer scale and beauty of it all moved her. It's a sight unlike any other. How? She tried to say, her question choked in her throat. Is this real? The wolf among us sneered at that. We all let it pass. It's complicated. The Umbra is a spiritual reflection of what you call reality, but it isn't any less real. If the wild creates and the weaver gives shape, you could say that the physical cannot exist without the spiritual. The spiritual and the pattern web is the substance upon which stands reality. Without it, reality crumbles. Or not. No one knows for sure, but here's what I can tell you. This is the sky. This is space. You can see it. You can feel it. If you were to walk all the way to the sun and then shift sideways back into reality, you would be on the sun. You would die extremely burned. A very crisp bacon, added Gloria. Very, I concurred. To me, that seems real enough. Wouldn't you agree? She did not need time to think after such a vivid image. She nodded her agreement. Can you? She eventually asked. Can you what? Walk to the sun. Damn straight. It would take months of travel, but we totally could. Unfortunately, there are people currently keeping a moon bridge open for us, and I don't think they'll wait that long. We should get back on. Ah, where are we going exactly? Quebec. We have friends there, among the Glasswalker and Bone Knower tribes. They are the 2 most urban of the tribes, although they couldn't be more different. But they make it work in the sept of the concrete bonds. Indeed, I had it. Originally, it was a Bone Knower sept. The cairn was underground, right under the old city, a heavy populated region. The Bone Knowers managed to keep the place secret for a time, but as humanity developed the city, eventually they ran into the problem of parking space, so they started making large underground parkings. They ended up digging way too close for comfort, and the Knowers were helpless to stop it. The cairn would be destroyed, just dug out. The Glasswalkers stepped in, bought a nearby hotel where they established their half of the sept and the connected parking. That way they were able to make sure the digging wouldn't get any closer, and they were able to give jobs to any Bone Knowers who wanted them. Where do they live? Jane asked. If the Glasswalkers live in the hotel, where do the Bone Knowers live? In the parking. Well, no, but kinda. There's a big crack in the wall in a restricted area. It leads to a series of underground tunnels where the actual cairn is. It's a pretty cool setup. Both tribes are working to their strengths. And humans are allowed in the building? Jane asked, perplexed. I wouldn't imagine Dreadhorn letting humans walk on this sept. We have so many defenses to prevent just that. No. I mean, yes, but no. Okay, Let me clarify. I started as we stepped back onto the moon bridge. Every cairn are different, and so are every sept. Some cairns are in public areas, like buildings or museums. It happens. In those cases, we have to make do. Humans don't tend to feel the flow of noses the way that we do. They don't usually know that they are on a cairn in such cases. Actually, usually the cairn was created inside an already existing building. Human expansion isn't much of a threat to it. The building is already there. As long as we protect the building, our sacred place is safe. In fact, it probably became a cairn because of some significant event in human history. Obviously, some areas are off limits and reserved for the Garou sept managing the building. The sept of the concrete bonds is the same. Humans can walk around the hotel. No one cares, as long as they don't step into a glasswalker meeting about, well, whatever glasswalkers talk about, and as long as they don't sneak into the crack in the parking, it's fine. And the bone hours have warders and locked doors to prevent that from happening. Huh. Septs really are different, she concluded. I could not agree more. Things grew dark, not too long after that, as the moon bridge dug down into the umbral earth. We stepped off on cool stones in a dry cavern. But if the location was cold, our welcome was most warm. Ha 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 ha! Welcome to the sept of the concrete bonds, beamed roiling laughter, their gatekeeper, and possibly the best person ever. Always willing to help, and always good for a laugh and a half. He's from a long line of Garou who've always been the caretakers of the cairn, since before there were even bone gnawers in America. Hey, buddy, he said, petting and roughhousing Firehound like he was just a normal dog. And I'll be damned if he didn't just act like one right then. Come on, he added towards Gloria. Tell me everything. What brings you to my humble dock and dreary cavern? This has been A Rite to Remember, Season 2, Episode 7, a series of lore videos for Legacy Werewolf the Apocalypse presented through an immersive narrative. This week, we're taking a break from the bloated exposition sessions that are the episodes on tribes to instead take a step back and gaze at the stars in a wonderful place where they very well just might gaze right back. If you are curious about the deeper mysteries of the Umbra and the other 13 near realms, you can read all about them in the multiple books about the Umbra. I recommend W20's Book of Umbra in particular. A few things I wanted to add on the topic of moon bridges and pathstones. First of all, it's a very confusing topic. Not everyone agrees that a moon bridge requires a pathstone and which rituals do what. A lot of this comes from the fact that there are also moon paths, and that there is a gift which can create moon bridges, seemingly out of nowhere. And that's not even getting into airts, gates, spirit trains, and all the other means of umbral travel. The thing to remember is that whatever works for you at your table works. But here's a rundown of the basics. My main source of information is comparing all the books of the Umbra across all editions, because those seem to agree on most of these basics. I know for a fact there are rites and gift descriptions that contradict this. Again, go with what works for you. A moon bridge is specifically a tunnel, created by a loon spirit actually stretching its body to do so. The spirit is the bridge. It can only link from one cairn to another if both cairns successfully conduct the rite of the opened cairn, even if that rite serves another purpose and doesn't mention this at all. And both cairns need a pathstone. As described in the episode, the concept of the rite is to gain permission from the totem to access the power of the cairn. Usually, this is to empower the sept, but it can also power a moon bridge if the patron agrees. However, you can't establish a bridge between two septs that aren't first linked by the rite of the opened bridge. This must be done once a year at the same time. The Ragabash Gift Open Moon Bridge can open a moon bridge between two cairns that are linked, but it's used to sort of sneak by the cairn patron and open a bridge without asking permission. And yes, All moon bridges pass by the ethereal realm at their apex. And yes, passengers are protected by Luna herself while on the bridge. No BSD or Bane can invade the bridge and attack you there without incurring her terrible, terrible wrath. A moon path, on the other hand, isn't a tunnel. It's a surface to walk on. Confusingly, it's kind of like a bridge made of light. Those are found more or less randomly in the Umbra, linking one point to another. Paths are not super reliable. A well-known path might suddenly be gone forever without prior notice, just as a new one appeared in a completely different location. Knowing how to navigate the Umbra from one near realm to another often means having a feel for these paths, where they might pop up and where one might lead. Loons and other spirits are commonly found on a moon path to assist or impede the pack's travels. What the path looks like and what's on it depends on the phases of the moon. I won't get into specifics of that because different editions and books have different ideas on that. But for your reference, you can find the most recent version of that in the Book of Umbra for W20 on page 40. We won't get into the other means of travel here, but those are the two big ones you need to know about. Now, I have to destroy a lot of what I've just said. Remember when I said moon bridges could only be opened if the rite is done on both sides, unless you have the Ragabash gift open moon bridge, that you need the permission of the spirit patrons. And remember when Horus said Luna watches over bridges herself? Well, whoever wrote the book Cairn Places of Power had their own ideas. To be fair, that's a first edition book, and they were trying to add depth to the idea of moon bridges in the context of intercept relationships. Anyway, that book, and absolutely no other book since, explains that there are actually 3 types of moon bridges. It's bullshit, but bear with me if you want to use that. The ones we know and love, and spoke about at length, are called safe moon bridges. Again, this book, and no other book since, says you should roll 3 die. And if all 3 roll a 1, something goes wrong. The bridge dissolves midway or leads to a completely incorrect destination. Of course, this completely ignores the notion that Luna herself guarantees safety on moon bridges. But if you think this sounds fun, feel free to use this mechanic. Similarly, wild moon bridges, created from one damaged or weakened pathstones, are unstable and quite dangerous. You roll 1 die, and if it shows up as a 1, then you may end up funneled in unsavory places, up to and including Malphaeus, the worm's very own umbral realm. It might fold on itself, creating an infinite moon bridge you can't get out of, and so on. It's really bad. And most of those outcomes basically equate to a game over state over a single random die, so I would not recommend ever using it. But you do you. I would also ignore the part where it says that the Ragabash gift open moon bridge creates wild moon bridges, because again, no other books have ever gone anywhere near that notion, and in fact directly states otherwise. And finally, attack moon bridges are created by the Rite of Luna's Spear and are used to invade other cairns. If that sounds like your jam, track down the book and details and mechanics on page 11 to 13. Just remember that even the book says other Garou consider this rite to be high treason and justification for a death sentence. Again, you do you, and Garou sure have done stupider things. I'm just here to show you what the tools are and where to find them. By now you might be wondering what the hell is a pathstone and how do I get one? Me too. The books are super vague about the whole thing. Most of the books just agree that they exist, but they're hard to find. Cool, thanks. Actually, usable information on pathstones can be found in Rage Across Heavens, an entire book about the ethereal realm. It's awesome, but I digress. Page 24 tells us about the celestial incarnate Sopta, aka Phoebe, aka the avatar of Luna, the spirit of the moon, Gaia's sister. It informs us that all pathstones come from her, as does moon silver, and one can get their paws on one of those by petitioning her. One does not disturb a celestial incarnate for freebies, however. Don't expect to just be handed one. The book states that she is far more likely to send you on a quest to find lost stones, which is where the hard-to-find part comes in. If they are lost, that means Garou fell protecting it, or got lost somewhere they never found their way back from. The same fate may well befall you trying to get it back. A huge thank you to Excel Garou, who was instrumental in the research for this episode. I knew the information existed somewhere about attack moon bridges and pathstones, but I went through 11 books without finding it. She was able to track down both. You can find her on Twitter as Excel Garou, where you can also learn about some of her cool werewolf projects, including the awesome index of all things werewolf that allowed her to find the information I was looking for in minutes. Next episode, we're getting back into the tribal saddle with the Glasswalkers.